All right, Veronica, you got the topic again this week. Wait, before we go, we didn't have
Jeez,
a podcast.
can we say hello?
Hello, everybody.
Every fucking time.
What do you want me to say? Hello out there in YouTube land.
Yes.
That's exactly how you say it.
Anything.
It's called an introduction.
When do you guys do it? You want to take two?
Welcome to the weekly
Here's to us, and thanks for bringing a beer.
Okay.
Welcome to the weekly Pistol podcast.
We missed last week, and that's what I was going to say. The reason we missed because all four of us were fried.
We did.
And
we taught 40 doctors on what it takes to treat cops.
Crazy cops.
So we all acted out.
And only one guy left early. Only one guy left early.
Yeah, he knew it wasn't for him.
Oh, we had someone leave?
Oh my gosh! Wow, you were fried.
She was fried that day. She was really fried that day.
How'd you do with that? Because you did seem really jacked up a little bit.
I don't remember. I just
She
know it
was
was not good.
She was out of it.
It was fun watching from the back row, watching it go down the thing, and Veronica getting worse and worse. I was like, "Oh fuck, she's gonna have to talk."
Yeah,
What was the name of that conference that we had, Manny?
It was horrible.
Coffee Cops and Clinicians.
Yeah, Triple C.
We'll do it again. This time we're prepared. We'll have different people on there and give them fair warning.
Oh, I liked
Yeah,
it,
I'm
man. I
not
think
going
we did
last
great.
next time.
I think we got great.
You can sit in the back row with me.
We
Yeah.
got
So
great
that's-
feedback from everybody.
Well, we had awesome feedback.
Yeah,
And
so
that was why we
very
didn't do
helpful.
one last week, because we were fried from all day Saturday setting up, not having pissers, getting that fixed, the air hot.
So for those of you that weren't there, we had a
great time.
conference where about 40 doctors and therapists came in and talked to us all about what it would take to treat us specifically and some of the nuances of treating police officers and first responders / second responders, firefighters too.
I think that's why the guy left.
Now included, probably.
Now included, yet still mocked.
And they will always be mocked. So, anyways, that's why we weren't here last week. That's why one didn't get posted. But for a second time in a row, Veronica did you get reached out to, or did it just happen to you? How did it all come to fruition?
Well, I would say I was reached out by officers. So, yeah.
So what happened that spark? I've known you now for several months, and I've never seen you that fired up.
It's been longer, but
It's been a lot longer.
anyway.
Several months could be 36 months.
So mostly, I guess over time, I've had officers come to me and talk about their experiences sharing with their supervisors or people at work and how not well they went. So just hearing what some of officers go through still when they're trying to get help. I mean, that's like if an officer's going to you as a supervisor and asking for help, like you're the one. Like they're not going to do that on the regular, and you only get one chance, right? So you fuck it up, like who knows what happens to him. So it really just kind of, and that day, like there were so many things that day that I saw that happened that just screwed everything.
Just
up for
pissed
me.
you off, and you went on a rant.
Yes.
Go to her Facebook page and just read the dissertation that she did.
Well, she was already jacked up from the weekend,
Right.
and then it just flowed into like big
was
old
bad.
She did
avalanche.
not stop. I was like, "Can you bottle this up for
I
Sunday?"
know. He actually told me to shut up and like save it.
Save it.
That's
I
helpful.
wanted her to be angry
Thank you.
again.
And you should be a counselor.
Yeah.
Shut up and save
I know.
it.
I know, that's exactly.
That's some therapeutic advice, isn't it? Why don't you shut up and save it? All right. I'm going to save it for...
So reaching out to your supervisors, that's the one thing. But then there was something else that came up after that, which was some fool at some other police department who has never had any PTSD. He went to
Right.
school to learn about us, and now he teaches about us. So you send me a screenshot of this. I don't know what it is. It's some kind of training that he puts on.
Yeah, he's
there.
like he works for a consulting company now, right? So he retired and now he's one of those guys. So he does trainings in different police departments and across the country. And so I first watched like the 7-minute thing, his little clip, and it talks about PTSD and officers who are starting to have problems, but they're like his whole theory is officers are getting in trouble at work because they have a lot of personal baggage that they're bringing to work, and they just need more discipline.
Oh,
So if
wow.
they start handing out more discipline, it'll be effective, and they'll get their shit together at home, and all those other things that are fucked up in their lives, they'll stop bringing it to work instead of as we know, it's work that we take home and fuck everything up around us.
So here's
It's
what
the opposite of that.
Right.
here's what he says on this video, and Veronica screenshot it and said to me, "That's how pissed off she was." 5 key reasons why officers fail. First one, mental health, behavioral issues. Mental health, yes, but behavioral issues, I'm not sure what the fuck that means. Like you're
And-
just a bad kid or something?
Right. That's what he was alluding to. And he also said it's pre-existing. Like all this is stuff you had as a child. So if you were abused as a child, if you had you came from a divorced family,
So
if
when
you
he
just don't
said
have
mental
family
health
support.
issues, he didn't mean from the job.
He meant before.
previous.
Because he's saying like now that they're seeing guys come up in the academy that they'll do these surveys to see who's taken different medications, and they're finding that all these people are on some kind of mental health medication now.
I wasn't.
I wasn't
was
either.
I.
Neither
like-
was I.
Yeah, well, I was
You
perfectly
wouldn't
fine.
get hired on something
Right.
like that. Are you
Yeah.
Right.
crazy?
These millennials may be on medication, but
Yeah.
we were not.
Right.
So the other one that he had on here, I'm doing it from top to bottom. It doesn't have numbers. He has bullet points. Next one is personality challenges. I don't know what that means.
My
Personality challenges.
My personality is amazing, so I don't know
You got a bad-
what could be
I don't
challenging
know,
about that.
confrontational or something like
I
that.
don't know what that means.
Who knows?
We'll have to look up what that means.
Antisocial.
The other one is toxic relationships.
Yeah. So he mentioned
Dating
marital
strippers.
problems.
There's nothing toxic about that.
Dating strippers?
Nothing.
Cool.
They're dollar ballerinas, by the way.
Because the
They're not
Cheetah
strippers.
Club is not far.
It's not toxic until we fuck it up
Till we
because we
fuck it
get
up,
messed up from
yes,
work. So that's
absolutely.
bullshit.
Right.
Next,
Right. And then the next one is general health.
general health. Okay,
General health.
I rarely go to a doctor
Right.
prior to this, and now I see.
Well,
just
that's why, because
shrinks,
your
like,
health is all fucked up and you just don't know
I
it.
just
So
don't
they're
know it.
saying, he's saying like you get out of shape and then you
Yeah.
just you sit and turn into the
Yeah,
Twinkie
you
guy.
have other
Yeah.
health issues that you
Okay.
bring, and you make that
Right.
a problem. For
And
you
then
at
so
work.
the last one is financial problems.
And
Has this guy
everybody-
got this entire thing
guy's a fucking
upside
cop.
down?
Wait,
He's
a
completely
retired
backwards.
He's a retired captain.
It's
Yeah.
well,
There you go. Because he's a
Hey.
fucking goddamn ladder
He's-
climber.
yeah,
he
he's-
never
Right.
did anything.
he's in the office.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. He's not
So-
out there banging the shit in the streets.
Right. So I'm going to
Right.
go over them again. Mental health, behavior issues, personality challenges, toxic relationships, general health, and financial problems. Here's my thought. Every one of those motherfuckers is PTSD.
Right. And he specifically said
And that's-
PTSD is not the problem with cops. These issues are the cops' problem.
No,
They have
that's
their-
the symptom.
right.
Wow.
I know. That's why I was so worked
That
up
those
the
are
other
all the
day.
symptoms of shit that
getting
we've
pissed off
blown
like
up.
Veronica.
Oh my
I
gosh!
was so
I'm gonna
can-
crawl through this microphone and find that guy in the web and kill
We
him.
have his
Well,
name.
I was gonna say
You don't
I
want to give
can-
me that information.
my way to fix it is to just put me and him in a room together, and I'll handle it.
Yeah, and he'll say it's not about you, T. This is not
Oh
about you.
shit!
So anyways,
Oh, shit.
Wow.
so
Yeah.
this guy
So anyways,
is...
he charges like an arm and a leg, right, per person to come, and he does all these seminars or whatever across the country, teaching command staff and whatnot
Which
that this
who
is
would
what they need
they
to
would
do.
love to hear that. So
Right,
would the
be-
insurance companies.
Absolutely, right?
You know, these
Wow.
people were so jacked up. Here's the other thing: is
Hold on, before I don't want to cut you off, but just on what she said about charging. So to attend his seminar, it's $390.
Of course it is.
And he's teaching you the wrong shit. That's
Right.
why staff doesn't believe in PTSD, because they're hiring this motherfucker at $390 a head to tell him that it's everything but PTSD.
yeah,
Like financial problems were already there prior to him being fucked up.
yeah, and his seminar is sponsored by the Hartford and State Farm and any other insurance industry bureaucracy that wants to jam you into the wall and say
Wow.
no pre-existing stuff. And what,
Right.
what-
So then that day, I also
backwards.
like back to back with that. I had heard about a supervisor, another supervisor, I should say, because this isn't the first time, who has responded in a manner that this man would be teaching. Right, like maybe you just need some time off, go blow it off, like. You need to quit getting in trouble, like all these things, right? And I'm just
Isn't
like,
that brilliant?
yeah. So I heard this and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is not okay because he's getting in trouble. Like you can't be foolish enough to think you have an upstanding officer who's never in trouble. All of a sudden there are some things that are starting to happen. Like, wouldn't you take the time to evaluate what's going on? Like, why is this person who's always been like one of our go-getters, one of those officers who just gets those awards every year, commendations all the time, and now he's making stupid mistakes and he's getting in trouble? at some point, someone's got to see that there's
Those
more
are
to
personality challenges.
it, right?
Wow.
So it's frustrating.
So that's what these officers are up against, and it's already they're fucked from the get-go because the department's hiring this motherfucker to tell them what's wrong with his officers, and they're saying no, that's not what's wrong because we have people like this saying it's this.
So let's back this up to prior to it being called post-traumatic stress disorder. It was in Vietnam,
Shell shock.
yeah, and Korea, shell shock, and World War II, shell shock, battle fatigue, and all that other stuff. You know, it's not those bombs blowing up in your face, nearly killing you, and people hiding behind every tree and bush trying to shoot you in the face and kill you.
It's
It's because you're not managing your finances at
Right.
home.
Right.
Don't you
Yeah,
understand that?
personality
You
challenges.
see how
Mark.
bass backwards this?
It is,
Oh
right?
my god!
You're not
Wow.
fucked up from
No.
the shooting.
It's the
You're
fact
the personality challenges
that your
you had
wife,
before.
your girlfriend, is about to break up with you back in the States. You don't even know it, but she's writing you a Dear John letter right now.
You got touched in
You're
the bum
stupid.
when you were little.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that spun her up. That now this spins me up because I was trying not to get spun up talking to her.
That's
but
why you
now
told
I'm
me to
pissed
shut
off.
up.
Well, I was getting pissed off because we need somebody to pay attention.
And he was laughing at me. Like, I knew I was upset because, I didn't know when I called him how mad I was. And
Oh, you were
but he was
steaming.
like giggling on the phone. Like, it was the funniest thing he's ever heard.
Veronica angry is it. I don't know what it is. It's just weird. Like I was like, you're angry. Like right now, you're really angry. Remember the last time we talked? Do you sleep well? I sleep fine. You angry? I don't have an anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then so when you see her like that, I was like,
Yeah.
fuck.
And I'm sitting over here right now sweating
Exactly.
like a motherfucker
Yeah.
up in here. Like,
I was
yeah,
like,
why am
holy
I so
shit.
hot?
Veronica's
so
fucking
mad.
pissed off. We're murdering somebody on this. Somebody's dying because they just pissed Veronica off.
All right, let's not
That's
say that
crazy.
in light of recent bullshit that's going on. Let's not threaten anybody's life.
So no, I didn't say that. I'm just saying generally speaking.
yeah.
So about that, you
Hypodermically.
wanted to ask about the supervisor thing, right?
Yes.
Did you go to your supervisor when you were struggling?
So-
Supervisor?
I don't know that I went. No, so I was really lucky. So when we had that first critical incident, the major critical incident, right, with the mass homicides, our immediate supervisor was gone that week. But when she returned Monday, she actually pulled us all aside one-on-one on her own and was like, hey, how are you doing? Like, she's the one who kind of gave us an outlet. And that was the first time that I'd ever seen anything like that at the PD. So she was really good about it. And then, and I don't know, I've had really good supervisors. So I would say that all of my immediates, well, not all my supervisors were good, but the majority of them were all really good supervisors. So when I was going through my shit, the last year that I was there, my supervisor was super supportive of me. So I don't know that she knew what to do or what to say, but she just didn't make me feel like a bigger asshole than I felt like already. So that was kind of cool, I guess.
Was she on scene with you? Was she your supervisor at the time? No.
No. Oh, well, so she was there for the incident that caused us to have to go see the psychologist after the shooting, the one that messed me up. So she knew me before I went in to see the psychologist, and she actually was my first, like, when I started the academy, like, she was my pre-academy person, so I've known her for a long time. So she's known me through ups and downs. So she kind of knows, like, how I get and what's real about things for me. And so after I went to see that psychologist and all my shit went sideways, she saw that difference in me, and so she was really supportive the whole time.
So looking back, you would go talk to your sergeant?
I think it would depend. Like, who the people are. I think you have a pretty good read and feel on what supervisors you can talk to and who you can't. But I will say, just from what I've heard, over the last couple of years, like, there are guys who are reaching out to their. So our agency was a really small agency, so everybody hangs out with everybody. You know everybody. You hang out with them on your time off and whatnot. So there's a lot of, like, supervisors who are really good friends to people. And so, but I have heard over the years that there are still supervisors who you think are your friends that you would go to and talk to, but let them know on a supervisory level, right, that you're struggling with something, these things are happening, and they're even responding in a shitty manner. So I don't know how.
That's kind of rough. I wasn't ever a supervisor. Mark, were you a sergeant or anything?
No.
Veronica?
Nope.
T, I know you weren't.
Nope.
God bless them if they give you stars.
I wanted to actually work, so I stayed in patrol.
So that is kind of a weird line though, because if we're hanging out off duty, and then you come in on uniform, and now I got to think about policies and procedures and getting you the right help. It's a lot. Now you're vested in that person, and to draw a line and say now when we're here at work, you're my subordinate, not my best friend or friend. We haven't broke that, and I think the reason we haven't is because of the idiots like the guy we just talked about, right? Because when I go to supervisor school, I'm going to have to take a class that's going to tell me how to treat somebody by the numbers on if they come and ask for help. Mark, did you go to your supervisor after that shooting?
Yeah, I did. And so I had a shitstorm starting before the actual shooting. So like I think I told you that I got the shit beat out of me by a 13-year-old girl.
That's a whole different
I'm
podcast.
sorry.
In my
I'm
defense, she was assisted.
She was big.
She was assisted by her 16-year-old sister. So between the two of them, it
They
adds
jumped
up
in
to
the
a full adult. And it wasn't anything even. Yeah, but I didn't get anything. I just got my face punched in.
Right on.
And their boyfriends were helping too, but still. Yeah, so I got a big beat down on that, and they all got off. And so honestly, that was like a start of a catalyst for me. And then I got another huge, terrific, horrific thing where, a guy was choked me unconscious, put me down on Grand Avenue, and I fell on the ground, and so I had to start some big shit coming, and I started. I don't know.
What was the question? Because I already forgot.
No,
Did you go to
Did I go to my
your
supervisor?
sergeant after
Oh.
that?
So I had
I was
all
like,
of this.
what?
I had all of this stuff like boom,
Building.
boom, boom. Yeah, this tidal wave was crashing, getting ready to crest over me, and I was just like. Then at the shooting, and then I was working off duty, and I wrote this cat up for running a red light, and I got written up for that.
For a traffic violation?
Yeah, and I was like,
What was the write-up for?
I'd still like to know that.
Oh, you
but I went to so I got an NOI because an investigation kicked out on me because I
Was he
working.
Hispanic?
You're not supposed to do
No,
things off
he was
duty.
he was a white dude, a teacher at a school, and he ran this red light in a construction zone that I was working, and a steamroller almost hit him, and I'm trying to clear the intersection now of all this chaos.
So technically,
and
you're
this
working.
fool, yeah, of course I'm working, and
Right.
so this fool has the audacity to go park and come stomping up next to me, and he's up in my face screaming at me. Moments before that, radio communications going out for maintenance. So I got this guy screaming in my face. I was like, this guy's going to kick the out of me, and I don't have a radio to call
Since
in
when
for
don't we
907.
swear? You can swear on this channel.
Yeah, so anyway, so I'm like, I said, you know what? I said, you better settle down. I'm writing you a ticket right now for running that red light. And regardless, so that was the last time I went to my supervision, and it was to get written up because you shouldn't have wrote that guy a ticket. Why? He's a teacher. That's what I was
Jesus.
told. So I was like, man, I got no support in this organization at all.
So what
And
about after your shooting?
so after the shooting, I thought, I was like, man, it seems like they're out to get me. It seems like they're gunning for me, like all this other stuff. So I seriously, reluctantly went to him and said, hey, I'm having a hard time with this. I'm having some nightmares. I can't sleep. I'm getting all spun up. I'm freaking out. All right.
There goes the flare.
They shot the flare off, and then they send me to this counselor, like I told you guys before. Told her the story of my shooting, and she gives me this. Her only statement to me was, well, why did you even have your gun out? And I was like, what the fuck kind of a counselor are you? I don't know what you are.
So do you think your
High school guidance
supervisor did the right thing? Did he help you?
No, because he never had my back. Like,
Right.
he never weighed in and said, hey, man, whatever it's going to take, we're going to help you. Immediately, I was already starting to feel isolated. And according to our recent topic, that's because I was in a toxic relationship. Or, I don't know. My dad didn't take me camping.
Don't encourage the guy.
Yeah. So, Yeah. So that completely screwed me up, and I was reluctant to go to him to begin with, and it seemed like him, the lieutenant above him, and the staff was all in line as far as, hey, whatever that guy does, like I can't even write a effing traffic ticket without getting written up for it, and so I'm like, I have no support here.
Yeah.
And so
And
when I went there,
I don't know
it
if
was
it's
terrible. Yeah, I didn't feel supported at all.
How big is your department? How many would you say you have sworn?
Like 300,
300.
maybe.
Veronica, how many you guys?
They're probably 250, 300 now.
Okay, so you guys are about the same size. I wonder if it's just a size thing, because when I went to my supervisor and I told him, hey, if you send me out in this black and white, the first gangster I'm gonna see, I'm gonna just execute in the alley. He's like, hey, go have a seat in my office. We're gonna get you some help. And from him all the way to my commander at that district, they took care of me. My commander actually got wind of it through my lieutenant, and again, look, I know commanders are busy, but he sent word down to my lieutenant and said, you give him the next week off, it's on us. And he just bought me a week, and didn't take it from my bank, didn't do nothing. He just said, whatever you need. Was at the end of the week, he called me. At the end of the week he called me and said, do you need another week?
Wow.
And I said no. And like we were talking on the last podcast, sometimes we're our own worst enemy. You know, he was trying to do the right thing. Everyone in that chain of command, from the sergeant all the way up to the commander, was trying to do the right thing. And I was telling them what they need, what I wanted them to hear to get me back in the car.
Yeah, and when you said that we're our own worst enemy, so keep in mind, at that shooting part, I was completely out of my mind almost immediately, and so all of this was my perspective of it. And granted, I'm looking through these jaded glasses, and everything, a grain of sand is this gigantic boulder.
But that's what we do after PTSD.
I get that, but I'm just saying. So maybe they were doing the right things, but in my perspective, no way.
I'm going to disagree, because just because I've had a lot of officers reach out and talk about their experiences going to supervisors. Some of them are have reached out this week and are saying I would never go. I'll go to the health and wellness person before I talk to my supervisor, and then I'll get jaded information from them because they're not experienced. I personally think if you haven't lived this, if you're not a cop who's lived this, you shouldn't be telling cops what to do, what to expect. You can read every book in the world, but if you don't know what it actually feels like to be at the bottom of that hole, or to have the whole town against you because you're in litigation now, or anything, I don't think you have that right or whatever. You just don't know what to say that's appropriate. You don't know. You can't share an experience. You just don't. Your perspective is just going to be fucked up because you haven't lived it.
Right.
What about you?
As a supervisor?
I can't.
Right.
I don't have the same. I had the same experience as you, Manny. They were
So
excellent.
we went to the wrong agency.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. All right.
Gilbert shitty.
The PD side was, they could tell that there was a difference in me. It wasn't like it was a hard thing to
Surprise.
figure out. There was no question about it, and they tried. They really tried, but.
And I think that even in, it took me a long time to understand this. I even thought I understood it before I was fucked up, but after and since then, I've come to realize that they're a business, right? Even though it's public safety or public service, they're still a business. At the end of the day, when I left there, they were like, oh, our customer's this, our customer's that. So I understand that they don't want that black eye. They want to keep it as low-key as possible. But the size of the department, I think, does matter, because I know bigger departments do have on-call psychiatrists and psychologists. The problem is how we only know one part of that story, hey, that guy didn't fucking help me. But we don't know what the officer told him
Right.
that didn't get him the help. Like in my case, when they said, do you need another week? The answer should have been yes.
Right.
I fucked myself and said no, because it's perception, stigma, shame, all those things.
Yeah.
And I'm not alleviating the departments or the idiot that we just talked about who is teaching the wrong way. But I think if you do pop off that flare, like Mike talks about, that everything should come to a screeching halt for you to get the help you need. And that's why we have the Craig Tiger Act and all that stuff. Unfortunately, those guys are not and I think that's where we come involved with like Pistol. We explain to them, look, part of this is your responsibility. Like you have to tell these people you're not okay. I did. I walked right up to my sergeant, told him exactly what I thought, and they got me the help I needed. But down the road there, I would interject and say, I'm better now. Can I go back to the black and white?
But I think if they need to tell you ahead of time, hey, before you get into this job, and you just know you could get injured, and we may not take care of you. Like someone should have told me that ahead of time, because I had zero. Who got into this job thinking, okay, if I get hurt, they're just gonna hang me out to dry? Like no one.
But that's the other half of it, though, because it depends on how you get hurt. Because some officers are glorified after their injury because based on what kind of injury they have. They're not just, you know what I mean? So if you go to so I had a conversation this week where I was like, hey, so if you're telling me if this officer goes in and says, hey, like I broke broke something, I tore something, jumping over a wall, his supervisor's probably going to take him to the hospital, right, to get fixed or whatever. If that same officer goes and says, hey, I'm hearing noises, I'm hearing shit, things are not right, something's wrong, they're going to say, why don't you just take the day off? They're not going to go that extra step, right? And so, and that's the problem that I have with it is, at the end of the day, it's still an injury. Just because you can't see it and don't understand it doesn't mean it's not happening. Right. And so if you're going to be in a position where, like now, agencies everywhere are preaching health and wellness programs, right? That's the new thing. They want to be glorified for what they're doing for their officers.
Absolutely. That was the last freak out that I had, because I was notified of the training in Mesa, and that's what Mesa was doing. And they're
at the same
putting
time,
on this fucking training, and I'm like, what the fuck?
But at the same time, they need to be educating the people from the top down. You can't just say, hey, our door's open for you if you need anything, because if they do reach out and they have a shitty response because you have an untrained person that does, and I don't even mean like know the deep ins and outs of what happens, just know a proper response, know where to send them, know what
systemic.
Not to say.
That is from the top down.
Yeah, and
it's the old adage of suck it up onto the next call.
And so you can't say we're changing the culture of PD today if it doesn't start at the top. If the guys running the show aren't actually affecting that, then what difference?
My agency has gotten better from reports that I've heard. So like nowadays, when you run into that type of thing, they'll serve that to you right away. They'll be like, "Do you want to retire? Or do you want to try to get some therapy?" That's what I've heard.
And I'm still hearing from other officers all around that they're still being told, hey, workers' comp is a pain in the ass to go through. Just use your own insurance and go deal with it on your own because it's going to be a problem. You know what I mean? It's too much work.
I was given that option, but at the time, I couldn't continue going to the doctor that I'd already seen because she didn't take my insurance, but that's the one I had to go to through the department. I was fucked from the get-go because I was like, they came to me and said, hey, all right, do you want to do work comp or do you want to do your insurance? And I was like, I'm already fucked up, and I know I've been hurt. Everyone's saying I'm hurt from work. It's obvious I'm hurt from work. Why would I not do work comp?
And that's what gets me is that there's that, if you're shot in the line of duty, they're not going to tell you, hey,
use your insurance.
Use insurance to take care of They're not. That's not even an option. But we're here having these issues, and so many officers are having these problems, and that's their option because it's easier to deal with that way than to go through the process.
From this training that I was worked up at, I did pay attention, and I did hear, okay, so with the new Craig Tiger thing, they're trying to circumvent work comp altogether. So you get so many visits. So they're going to give you all these visits, but never make a work comp claim. So they're going to try and not get through work comp because I specifically asked that question. Like, what? So Manny, it doesn't matter what you do if the city's going to tell you to fuck off anyway. It's not about you.
So Manny, you talked about you made her mention earlier. Said So this is a business. This isn't an effing business. We're servants. We're public servants. That's like saying the government is a business. It's not
I understand wholeheartedly. I didn't say I agreed with it.
Yeah, but that's how they're trying to.
That's what they're portraying.
Yeah. And if they start doing that stuff,
that's why they're going away from pensions. Departments are going away from pensions and they're going to 401s.
Oh wow.
They're calling the people we serve. They're calling them customers. All this is a direct result of them trying to get away from that.
So what's a satisfied customer? The guy in jail?
Yeah.
Another satisfied customer.
I was hearing that well before I retired.
Wow.
But just to talk about a little bit before
if it's a business, then I should get an option of whether I want to put into work comp or not.
Everybody puts into work comp.
I know, but then they try and screw you in the end. So I've been putting in there.
Well, you got, and
it's like Social Security,
You're right.
motherfuckers.
That's your money.
Yeah.
But some of the
Your
stuff
account.
too is you have to remember that, and I'm not defending them, but if you have a supervisor that says, "Hey, I'm really close to Mark or Veronica, and I know work comp is trying to fuck you," I can alleviate that problem by circumventing the system myself and saying, "Go to your insurance," because they're not going to question you. The problem is that now work comp's not being held accountable.
Right.
What I was going to say beforehand was what Tia talked about, and I think I already know the answer, but I only got 2 hours of mental health training in the academy. Do you remember yours?
No.
I have no fucking idea what they talked about.
I don't
So it was
remember
that
it.
small.
Yeah.
However much it was.
That's
it was
because they don't talk
and
about
if it's
it.
post, I mean, we all got 2 hours. If that's what you
Right.
got, we all got the same
It was
post
2
training.
hours. They brought a shooter in. He said they made me see the doc, and that's one of the problems. The other day I was talking to an officer out of LA, and I said, "Isn't it weird that when you get in a shooting and you kill somebody, the standard is 3 days off?" That's what the human life is valued at, 3 days. That's when not only the person you killed, but your mental health is only worth 3 days. That's what you got in your shooting, 3 days off. And 98% of the time, we knew what to say. "How you doing? I'm sleeping good. Yep, everything's good. All right, I'm going back," to do it all over again. And that's what I was going to touch on with T, was that's how we're being trained from the get-go. So in my world, in my belief, in my opinion, you don't start at the top. You start at the bottom with these rookies that are coming in, and you teach them mental health, because those rookies will eventually be the chiefs.
Right.
And they're the
No,
ones that are going to buy into
I
it.
agree with that.
Treat your
There has to be
children well.
something we're educating them from the bottom. But what my problem is that those guys are thinking that's the way it's going to work, and then they go to their supervisor who's never been to this training, who doesn't give a shit, who comes
Right.
from a different culture, right?
Yeah.
And he's shutting them down. So you can parade yourself all over social media and say, like, "Hey, we're doing all these great things for officers," but if at the end of the day your officers aren't going to go to you because you don't actually have their back, what good is it?
Right.
then?
Well, we've seen it all over, right? They panic and they're like, "Oh, we got a fucking emotional support dog. Like, come pet the dog and make you feel better."
Right.
It's not the
I
point.
know.
And the people, and so all those people you're talking about that we're educating, at some point they will have problems if they're not taking care of themselves from now. But we see who we run into are the ones who have already been on the street for many years, or who are retired, who don't have, you know what I mean, who are trying to get the services now that they've already put in their time, and there's nothing for them. Or you have the stupid new young supervisor who doesn't know shit, and he's telling this guy who's been on the street for 20 years, just
Right.
go take the night off, or you know what I mean, just
And part of
blowing
the
him
problem is that they promote the wrong fucking people, right?
Well,
they don't
fuck
promote
yeah.
the guy that's fucked up. They promote the guy that scored the best on the test. Who
Yeah,
never
they're
did
not
anything.
promoting the guy that's out there, bloody knuckles and all that
Right.
stuff, because he got into some horrific stuff. But in what Veronica was saying is true. You know what you know about those people? What you know about those people that are just glory hounds and looking to roll up that thing? You know what they're afraid of? Bad PR.
Right, because they're a
So
business.
that's how you educate them. Hey, do you really want to make your department look like a shithole? Then you better start taking care of these officers, because here's what we're going to do. And back to the cover your own insurance topic. So I did that, and it was costing me $1,700 a month and $2,300 a month for medication. You can't afford that.
Right.
So the only thing you should be doing on your own accord and paying with your own way, and that's getting a mental health assessment of yourself, or getting a diagnosis. Like if you're having trouble and you privately go to a doctor and you tell that doctor what's going on, and they come back to you with, hey, you've got this, or you've got post-traumatic stress disorder, whatever the case may be, that's the end of your private pay. Then you take that diagnosis and you lay that out on that bureaucrat/chief's desk, and you tell them, hey, this is what's going on with me, and I need help from the department right now. And jam
yeah,
it.
but there's time frames though. That's
Right.
time
and
sensitive.
that's what,
I get
that's
it,
what
but I'm
concerns
saying
me about
from Discovery.
these supervisors saying, hey, just go do it by your own medical insurance, because there are those time frames, and
It used to be
long-term-
a year, and it's less than that
right.
now.
And
What'd
so
you say it is,
long
Manny?
term, if you are doing
It's
that,
still
you're
12 months.
screwed.
It's less.
Because
It's coming
It's
I'm
down.
sure-
yeah.
I'm sure that's going to be the problem now that they've switched
To the
over to this
tiger.
to the tiger
Right,
thing.
right.
Okay, well we're going to get them help, behind the scenes, but then your time frame, they're going to come back and say, well
you
it's too
should've.
late.
It's too late.
No,
too
that's,
late.
Yeah.
So
right?
what ends up happening in that scenario is that you're being treated for the same injury, and they're going to give you the diagnosis. That diagnosis stands. So it doesn't that can be retroactive. So if you're under the Craig Tiger bill, and you go through your 12 sessions or 24 sessions, whatever you need during that time frame, if they say this guy's got acute stress, you're not helping him, or he's got full-blown PTSD from the job, that counts. But so you can still say we know where it stems from because
Are you absolutely certain about that? Because I know of an officer out of my department who got jammed because he had already asked for help, was already getting help, and they had already diagnosed him with that, and he went beyond that 12-month period, and guess what he got?
you can
Kicked out the door.
when you fill out your injury on your what are they called?
Industrial.
Industrial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you do the industrial,
Yeah.
it asks for date of injury.
But if it's far back, isn't that going to go against you? Because I know, like,
That's
for
what I
me,
thought.
everybody thought my injury was directly the JT Reddy thing that had happened years before. So I had heard through the grapevine, like my command staff saying, "Oh, it'll never go through because that was so long ago. She can't claim that now." And that's not what my challenge was with them. Mine was like, "Hey, you made me go see this fucking woman, and I walked in there good, and she fucked me up."
Right.
So this is my date of injury, right?
Right.
And so that's how I was able to get through workers' comp, because I had that date of injury.
Exactly, because it's retroactive, right? You've already have it documented. It's already documented. You went to the doctor.
No, but
Right.
they were still saying I was going to be denied for that. The only reason they accepted my claim was because I had the new claim of the date that I saw the doctor that brought all that shit
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. So if it's well beyond, I think it was 12 months, but we've had officers leave the department, our department, go to another department, come back, see one thing, and say, "Oh, it was from when I was here the first time,"
And it works.
and it works.
Wow.
But now again, I'm not saying that that's probably why we get fucked, because they're working the system in their favor. T and I just talked about this, about an officer who didn't get what he wanted, and he's like, "Nah, I got PTSD. I saw
Well,
too many dead babies."
That's
that happens.
That's
Right.
We have
well.
those
That's
too.
always my problem. Is if you're having issues, before you start getting in trouble, you need to go say something, because once you start getting in trouble, I think you're kind of screwed.
Well,
because then
they're
they
all
think,
trying to cope, though. You know
Well,
what I'm
I
saying?
understand
and I know.
But
I wish that we could stop it, but that's how you try dealing with
And
it.
some of it is things that
it's-
you're not, like, you're irritable, right? You're
Yeah.
upset, you're irritable, and you're just not being fucking kind on a traffic stop. You're just there doing your job by the book, and you're not showing compassion or whatever. And officers are getting in trouble because they could have handled it differently. They
Right.
it wouldn't have been, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a fucking personality issue. It's something is deeper happening with them that they're not really. Because I know when I was fucked up for a long time, like, there were things I didn't even realize I was doing. I didn't know I was that dark hole cloud in my briefing, right? I just felt like shit, and I expressed how I was feeling all the time.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't until hindsight, looking back when I was better, and I can go, oh, wow, I really was, like, the worst person to be around.
People
you know?
would say that to me too in briefing. They'd be like, "Hey, what's going on with you?" Like, even as jacked up supervisors, like, "Hey, your countenance is down.
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong with you? You
your
just
what is down?
your countenance."
What the hell is
what
that
does
word?
that mean?
What is
It's like
that word?
it's like a biblical term.
Can you spell that?
And he was
for us?
he was a religious guy, and he's like,
Oh.
you know, you kind of like down, you're like casting shadow and throwing shade
I
up
like
on
I
everything.
throwing
Okay.
shade. I get.
Yeah.
That other word I don't get.
Yeah. So and he was like, you know, what's wrong? He's like, everything. It just seems like you have this spirit of gloom about you. I was like,
Well,
yeah.
and obviously I do, like,
Yes, I do.
I see, like, on social media now, like, you get those stupid memories, right? And all my memories are negative, like, oh, somebody, you know, lucky the world lived today, like, I didn't kill anybody, and it was all stuff like that I was posting
Wow.
while I was you know, that whole year and a half or couple years that I was all fucked up, like, everything was negative and mean, and not like my normal, right? So somebody should have been like, what the fuck's wrong with her?
Normally,
Let's do
I
something.
think that we're happy people. We want to do good. We get to that point, but then we get so, like, I'm at the point, I'm so angry. Like, I can snap in a second. Like, there's no way
Yeah.
I can have
that's-
contact with someone who's
Yeah.
disrespectful or there's no way.
Right.
Yeah.
There's no way.
That's when I knew
That was
I was
me
like,
Thursday.
I was like,
It was Veronica all week. Don't let her lie. Yeah, it was all week. She was angry all week. But
All
I
week?
mean, in all reality, it's our responsibility as a person to go to your supervisor to ask for help to begin with. If they're gonna not give you what you need, that doesn't give you permission to ignore it. You can still go out and get the help you need, because at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own health. And they should. I agree. They should know better.
it's hard for the patient to understand. Well, it's my responsibility,
Especially when you're
because
fucked
it's
up.
not
Yeah,
a
I
broken
made a lot
arm.
of
Especially-
It's
stupid
not a
decisions
broken
when I was
arm.
fucked up.
It's your perspective. It's like saying, at the end of the day, it's the drunk's responsibility to get his ass home safely behind the wheel of the car. You can't, because the first thing to go is your
Well, that's what the
Is
doctor
your
always
sense
tells
of,
you. Now, don't make
right
any
and wrong.
major decisions within the. And I'm like, yeah, I can't even fucking figure
I
out.
hit send on the
my-
email.
I'm just saying, yeah. You're taking
Stop bringing that up.
Yeah, and that comes back to what Veronica says. These supervision needs training in the line of, hey, I see my people acting out of character,
Right.
and we need to sit down. We need to have a
Right,
conversation.
because it's
about
not the
this.
typical. We all have those guys,
Yeah.
right? That are just fuck ups from the beginning. You want to be around them because they're fucking everything up, right?
Yeah.
And so all that attention's away from you, right? Because they're such a fuck up. But so those people. But when you have like good officers who are all of a sudden out of nowhere, there's shit happening that is very uncharacteristic.
Way off the rails.
Dude.
Then
Exactly.
fucking look into that, because there's a problem. It's not just they decided
Yeah.
today I'm going to fuck up my world.
My supervisor at one of my court hearings at the Industrial Commission actually said, they asked him, was this out of character for her? And he's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
was very surprised.
Yeah,
Hi,
because
people.
my brain is fucked up. Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't have control over
Yeah.
the shit that's going on. Much like any other injury, you can't fucking control if you tear
Ugh.
something how that's going to feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went on a rant. What is it that you would like to convey? And eventually we will on our page. But what is it that you'd like to convey? Because the rant was actually a good rant. If you could get through all the other stuff in the beginning, but the meat and potatoes, it was very deep and sincere, and it made a lot of sense.
My thing was just with supervisors right now. If you're in a position as a supervisor, right now, like more than ever, cops are coming out, right? They're finally starting to reach out. You might be the only person,
That's going to listen.
right? And the only time they're ever going to speak out to try to get help. And if you fuck that up, like, cops are dying today more than ever, more than any line of duty death. Cops are killing themselves because this shit is real. Like, you could be the reason that man went home and did what he did because you fucked up. What all you had to say was, dude, we'll fix it. We'll take care of it. Like, whatever we got to do. Simple. Like, one fucking line could have saved his life, but you're stupid, egotistical, like unknowing, just ignorant to things because you just don't know. And I get it. Like, when I didn't have this, I didn't fucking know what to say or do or how to be. Like, I had my doubts about it, but so I get it. But if you're in that position now and your department is preaching health and wellness and, oh, we're coming to the new age of, like, we have therapy dogs, we have meditation rooms, we've got all this stuff for officers, then it needs to start at the top. Like, your immediate supervisor needs to be on board and needs to have some kind of training in at least what not to say, right? Like, if you don't know actually what to say, don't fuck it up, because you never know what that officer's gonna go home and do.
Yeah, and supervisors, it's incumbent upon them to know each of their people. Hey, are you having relationship problems? You know, if you want to take it back to your weird
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
original quote. But if they're having relationship problems, that could be a sign.
Right.
If they're having financial problems, that's also
That's
a
a
sign.
sign,
If they're
yes.
having substance abuse, alcohol abuse, behavioral acting out and screwing things up, that's not a sign of I'm an asshole.
Right.
That's a sign of that's not who I am on a normal.
right.
So something's going on. way below the tip of that iceberg that you see popping out.
Right.
So
You got to get below the surface, and you got to find that, and that's your job as a supervisor
Right.
to know your people
because
and help them and draw it out.
I have
Yeah.
PTSD.
Sorry.
What were
I
those
agree.
5 things? What did he say about those 5 things? I knew what the 5 things were, but what were they
No,
saying?
he was saying his whole line of training is officers have these issues. They're pre-existing issues that are not brought on by your job, and you're bringing those issues to the workplace. and
Prior
you're-
to hire.
Right,
That's what he said.
and on a regular basis, you have these issues now, and you bring them to work, and you're fucking up at work, and you're a discipline problem, and so they need to start training supervisors to more effectively enact discipline on these guys so that they stop bringing that shit to work.
Yeah, that's what we're lacking. We're lacking paperwork. Could you please write us up more? That's going to help us better.
That would mean that we got in trouble before.
Right.
And
That
that's
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's
right.
not the case.
Well, I think part of what he's trying to say is
Not the
that
case.
if you are any length of time officer, I'll just say veteran officer, but if you start having personnel issues, like you start getting in trouble more, he wants the departments to look at, well, is he having financial issues at home? That's why he's fucking up.
so his thing has
He's putting
nothing
the
to
cart before the horse is what he's doing.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying,
But and they're also trying to take away from PTSD because he specifically says like it is not PTSD. These
Right.
officers they're over-diagnosing. This is not what's really going on. It's all these other things that are going on, and that's what we need to teach
That's
more.
what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what he's trying-
Specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
fuck
because
that guy.
because the reality is
Ditto.
if an officer comes to you and says, I just broke my leg or I twisted my ankle real bad, the first thing he does is he gets the industrial
Right.
and starts filling it out. Well, if an officer comes to a supervisor and says, look, I'm having nightmares about this dead baby or shooting or whatever, the same should be done.
Right.
And that's what my boss did. When I sat down with him and told him what was going on, first thing he did was pull out that fucking industrial, started filling it out. And he goes, tell me what I need to write in here.
So is that a matter of training, do you think? Did somebody somewhere along the chains in Mesa, did they train their people to
No,
know
he
how
had
to
a
respond?
good, compassionate supervisor.
Yeah, my supervisor had 25 years on, or 23 when I got to him. In my department, there's certain, like we talk about checking the boxes, and it's not always bad to check the boxes because then you don't miss anything.
Right.
And in my case, when I said that, he just knew we have to fill this out because it was on duty. He was on the call with me, so he was aware of it. Had nothing to do with the department. Had everything to do with the city and the city just pushing back. Even when my assistant chief went to work comp and said, this is a very real thing. I lost my partner back in the day to suicide to this thing. It's real. And they were like, be gone. You have no power here. And it was true. He had no power with the city. So the city could be laying enough pressure on the department
Yes.
where they're just ignoring it. Because, like I said, the size of the department matters.
Right.
A
But
bigger
that's
department.
so that's what like really bothers me. Then don't sit and parade your department around and talk about
Exactly.
I'm pro cop and I'm here to help my officers and build all these cool things in place. A place to put everybody's willy nilly flyer up that says here, go get help here, go get help there. If you're not actually going to help your officer.
Well, the easiest fix is
Thank you, Veronica.
Yeah, I never. Our department in Mesa had shit up on the walls that said, if you need help, call this number. Right? Never did anything the department sent to me. I followed.
Right.
What I would do is I would go to their officers and say, hey, where the fuck did you get that? And they'd be like, oh, I went over here, and I'd listen to individual officers.
Right.
Yeah.
So in order to, in my opinion, in order to change that, that's where PISTLE comes involved, and they say, look, I'm struggling. Who do I go to?
Yeah.
Hey, don't
Right.
go to your supervisor.
That is what helps.
Go outside
Right.
of this
and,
fucking agency.
and it goes
go
back
here.
to training not only with the supervision, but if you're training line level officers, like one of you had mentioned, of the up and coming people to recognize, hey, these are problems, because I didn't know what I was going on in my
Right.
mind,
Nope.
or I would have definitely went and got some help.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't know I was on the road, or I would have gotten off that stupid road. But and then your other dude, he's like, when your analogy of the you get a broken leg and they give you the workers' comp form. That guy, he said, oh, you got a broken leg? Well, that's because you didn't try out for track in high school and you never learned how to
Right.
appropriately run. and you wear New Balance tennis shoes. Everybody knows you should wear Adidas. And so, that's his analogy. So
Yeah,
it's so jacked up and backwards. It's the dumbest shit
and then
I've
they
ever
hire
heard.
the wrong, like the outside entities that they look at to hire don't know what they're talking
So you
about.
know who's going to buy into that and swallow that hook, line, and sinker is going to be the city, who you just said is applying pressure to the chief. Because
Right.
the same
Right.
thing happened to my chief. He went to bat for me eventually, and he went to him, and they said,
Yeah,
"Shh, you're not allowed in this
You're
hearing.
nothing.
Get
You're
out of
but-
this hearing.
yeah.
You can't
Well,
come in here."
Yeah, but to
that.
what Manny's
Same way.
saying is like it starts at the line level. But here's the thing. You're right. We do share it with each other. But the other thing they're sharing with each other is when he says, hey, did you go and talk to so-and-so, sergeant, whoever, about this? What happened? Right? Because he might have his own issues. And he's like, oh, fuck him. He said this or he said that. Now this officer's like, well, what the fuck do I do? Because I can't go to my supervisor, right?
Yep.
So
That-
that gets around too.
Oh, absolutely. You do that to one person, and you just
Everybody-
educated 100. Don't ever do that, because look what happened to him.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know, that any of those things that they send you to, like on the wall, are they're confidential. What the fuck ever? Everybody
Yeah.
fucking whatever.
They're brought in by the department. The department wants to know.
Redonk.
But they still do. They need to stop hiring these outside idiots that are favoring the departments that are going to say it's not PTSD.
Right.
Right? And unfortunately, as much as I disagree, like Mark and everyone here, this is not a business. But that's how they're treating it. In this day and age, they flip-flop between you're a hero and you're a number.
Well,
Right.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Had you been a hero, they would have extorted you to the end of
Oh,
the
yeah.
earth.
Oh,
Yes.
they'd whore you out.
Yeah.
Oh,
They'd put you on the
absolutely.
news,
Yeah,
look
yeah.
what we did.
Yeah.
And that's, so that was one of the things after these two shootings. I watched the news and stuff. And one of the fire captains, he was a deputy chief. He was very tactful and finesse in what he said when he's like, I'm not taking away from the victims by any means, but our first responders are suffering from that
Right.
shooting.
Yeah. Good.
And
Good that he said that.
but they didn't it to
It's
them
true.
and that's the problem. Like when you talk, and I'm not going to get into gun control because it doesn't matter, but when they talk about, hey, if you have a mental illness you can't have a gun, a day before my critical incident I was good to carry a gun. According to everyone that says people with mental health issues can't carry a gun, the next day after I responded to help you,
Yeah.
I can't carry a gun.
Right.
And it's knee-jerk reaction, and I think that if they just took the time to do their homework and get the right people in there to get the help, it would help. But at the end of the day, they're treating it like a business, and it's not in their best interest
Right.
to acknowledge that PTSD exists in law
Right.
enforcement. It's just not good business.
I'm-
Because how are you going to recruit people when the end result is, hey, you might be fucking divorced, in jail, or you might kill yourself.
Here's
and
the problem with it.
statistically speaking, that's going to happen.
It's difficult to status that. It's like because it's prevention. Your department can't enact this incredible situation and this incredible support system, educate all the supervision, the chief and staff down to the line level supervision, and educate all the officers. And at the end of all of that, if you have no suicides, they can't wave that flag. None of our officers have killed themselves. It's like officer presence. You're doing your police log, arrested drunk driver, arrested domestic violence person. All that's, you can status that. You can show that. I have 4 arrests. I have 6 reports for my 10-hour shift that I just did. I can't say I drove around the corner, saw umpteen gang members scattered like cockroaches. I just prevented a gang shooting. You can't status that. So prevention is never statused.
Well,
But that's what we're doing.
Even prevention. I talked to a clinician not too long ago. I said, you cannot prevent PTSD. The only way you can prevent it is by rotating officers out by the day.
Right.
Depending on the size of the department, right? But if you take a size like my department in Mesa, it's not uncommon to respond to that many critical incidents in a day. You're re-traumatizing the officer, and that's bad business.
Right.
Because you're not going to get people to do the job. We see it now.
Yeah.
You're not getting people to do the job when they're leaving you out to dry.
Yeah, and if they were to look at the long-term public relations of it all, when an officer does commit suicide, if, like our most recent run up north, if they had publicized that of because he had no support, because he went to a supervision,
Right.
because
Right.
they won't even give him the dignity of a procession to get his body back to his hometown, because of all of that crap, that should be publicized.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? That's the black guy you don't need. And so when you're trying to recruit officers, now we can't even find anybody to come and do this job. That's because of stuff like that. So
Yeah, they're not. It's not in their best interest to acknowledge this occurs. We already know that, and it's in their best interest to say that there's prevention and blame it on the officers, right? Well, we have all this stuff in the hallway. Why didn't they call that number? Right. The reality is we're not going to call it because it doesn't work. We already know it doesn't work.
/ we don't know what we have.
Right. Well, they know exactly what they have. You have a career that historically destroys mental health.
No, I'm saying the officer as the patient, not aware of what PTSD symptoms and all that are, because I was given no training on that. I didn't know. So you could have a wall full of flyers. It's like
It doesn't apply
all
to
of the
me.
stuff. Yeah,
Right.
that's for lunatics.
Right. That's not for
I'm
me.
not crazy.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that doesn't exist.
No,
Yeah.
no faith in the
Fuck.
mental health field at all. As a total bunch of
We're
scam
like
artists,
super
This is your punishment, bitch.
Yeah.
Like, if I want my palm read, I'll go to the fortune teller down on 59th Avenue. And that's all I thought they were.
Yeah.
So, in closing, Veronica,
Yes.
I know you.
Are you feeling better, Veronica?
I don't know.
Now that you've let it all out there.
I'm not sure yet.
I wasn't a big fan of, but you did put something out there that you were taking a.
Oh yeah, I just wanted officers to let me know if they have gone to their supervisors and what the response was. Did they feel like, would they do it again? Would they, are they comfortable with it? How was the response? And I did get people who said, I wouldn't even think to go to my supervisor. Like, I'll just go to so and so, or I'll just try to find something on my own. Like, there's no way.
Do you have a tally? What was the, or is it still going on?
It's still.
So as of right now, what's the percentage that would not go to their supervisor?
Oh,
Would you say?
Nobody has said.
Not one person?
Not one person
Holy
has said.
shit.
I would totally go to
Yeah.
my supervisor.
I would-
That's a fucking
Wow.
mess.
I wouldn't do it again.
I'm glad.
But-
I'm glad you can get some responses. What's your problem, Manny?
Oh, I
What-
don't even know.
I've
No
asked.
response.
I've asked you
That's-
to. I've asked
but
you to
that's-
dye your hair blonde.
That's part
That's
of the
gonna
problem
help.
too. It's a skewed number. We learned that from Comstat. If Veronica goes to get
Comstat.
help,
Yeah.
she's gonna get all the help she wants. If Mark and I go get help, we ain't getting shit.
Get out of here. Take out
Yeah.
the trash on your way out the door.
We all know those fucking numbers can be.
Oh,
You can do
all
whatever the
day.
fuck you
Yeah.
want with those
Veronica and
numbers.
I talked to Veronica on Thursday, I think it was, and I was trying to explain to her the theory of how the hierarchy works, right? And I said, Veronica, if you walk into a room, if the four of us walk into a room, and
I get all the lesbians.
yeah, so Veronica, I said, Veronica,
saying.
if you go in and you ask for money, in that hierarchy, I'll put it into status of departments. Veronica's Wounded Warriors.
Nice.
Mark is firefighters. Tanya, or T, is the LGBT community.
Oh.
And then me, I'm cops. In that order, they're going to donate to Veronica first. Without even saying. They will look at it and they're like, oh, we're giving Veronica all our money. By the time they get to us, they're like, hey, I gave back 2 people ago at Veronica. Because they're not, it's better, it looks more sexy to donate to warriors, right? To the military. Then the second responders, those motherfuckers, they got it down. That's them with the boot and they get it
Yeah,
all.
but you know what? Those guys
We should
know.
take our stinky boots and.
Those guys and
Ew.
girls, the firefighters,
Ew.
know how to market being a firefighter.
Right.
I defy you to find a person in America that can say, yeah, you know what? Screw the firefighters. No, because all they do is help.
Right.
None of them take, little Johnny's dad
Right.
to
jail.
drag him to jail.
Take them to the Hooskow.
And
Yeah, but we're gonna do a PTSD calendar. I'm just letting you know.
Oh, that.
Oh, no way.
I'm gonna do it.
Are
The
you?
the
Are you?
different faces of PTSD.
Oh,
Are you Miss November?
No, I'm not in it.
You're
Luckily,
not- oh, you're not in it.
Luckily for everyone else,
my
I am not
gosh.
in it.
Just Rainbow
Oh.
Bright. So
yeah. So we're gonna have like a Hannibal set up where we're strapped to a
we're
dolly.
just duplicating.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic.
Wow.
So
That'll bring some nightmares. Sorry, people.
yeah, sorry you had to see that. So, anyways, Veronica, I appreciate you keep reaching out and getting all this information. We have another topic. I think I'm gonna see if I can get an officer to come in about, and if not, we'll do it. But I do appreciate you guys being here. I'll work on the opening monologue for you guys
Thank
because I don't
you.
say hi.
Oh.
Develop
Yeah.
one. You guys can start it. I don't give a fuck. I don't have to do it. You guys develop it.
Something we just
We
never
got
know
it.
when you've started. You go from rambling to we're going, and we don't even know.
I don't care. Nobody.
All right.
I don't care.
At one point, he hits record.
Someone
That's how we
does, And then
know.
I edit out whatever I don't want to edit.
Yeah.
So as always, right? All of us, to us,
Wait.
and those like us.
Clink, clink.
You. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah.
Later.
Love and peace.